So I'm going to be refuting a speech by Will about downloadable video games versus retail video games. And his main claim was that downloadable video games are more consumer friendly than retail video games are today. While there isn't much controversy over this topic, I feel that his speech has some flaws in the reasoning, and I'm going to be talking about these. So my opponent's supporting claims are 1. Downloadable games cost less than retail games. 2. Downloadable games are easier to get than retail games. And 3. Downloadable games are more convenient than retail games. So to my opponent's first point, which was downloadable games cost less than retail games. He claimed that the cost of downloadable games on handheld systems range from 99 cents to $20, while most retail games range from $30 to $60. I feel this is a sweeping generalization. My opponent neglected to show that while retail games are normally $50 to $60 upon release, their downloadable counterparts are also the same price. An example that I found of this was The Sims 3, which was released like 3 months ago. At Newegg.com, which is like a website similar to Amazon.com, they were selling The Sims 3 for $40 or $39.99 to be precise. And I checked the price on Direct to Drive, which is a service that allows you to purchase video games and start downloading them instantly, and found it to be $49.95. So in this case, the downloadable game is more expensive. So my opponent also said that consumers are not as willing to pay up to even $40 on their video game in this current recession. So low-priced downloadable games are seeing more sales. I do not see how this piece of evidence is relevant to the price of downloadable games versus retail games, as this piece of evidence is making a statement about how well low-priced downloadable video games are selling. Not that they are selling better because they are cheaper than retail video games, or because they are downloadable and not retail. So my opponent's second claim is that downloadable games are easier to get than retail games. While this is true for most examples, there is a counterexample. So his main supporting claim for this secondary claim was that consumers don't need to drive all the way to a video game store to get a new game when they can just download onto their system in less than 10 minutes. Like I said earlier, this is true for most cases, but not everyone has internet in the U.S. or North America. So I've actually looked up, and 26.1% of North Americans don't have internet access, which I feel is relevant because that's almost 1/4 of the population. So that means that downloading a video game for them would not be easier; it'd be impossible since they do not have internet access. And my opponent's third and last point was that downloadable games are more convenient than retail games. His first piece of evidence for this claim was that video games are one of the most time-consuming forms of media entertainment, and because downloadable games are short, it makes it easier for consumers to enjoy the entire game. He quotes a poll from BioWare, a major game producer, that states 81.3% of gamers finish downloadable games, whereas 34.7% finish retail games. While I was not able to find this poll online, I am not sure how being able to finish a video game relates to convenience. The poll would imply that finishing a game, which would require more time than not finishing a game, is more convenient. So to recap, in conclusion, my opponent's topic was downloadable games are more consumer-friendly than retail games today, by trying to show that downloadable games are 1, cheaper, 2, easier to get, and 3, more convenient than retail games. And I hope that I have sufficiently weakened his argument.
All right, the claims are labeled pretty well. The signposting on the first and the second and the third points, it's easy to follow. The argument about it being a sweeping generalization, you have a good explanation there, and you've got a good example to illustrate that particular point. There's a challenge on the correlation between the sales success of the game and making it comparatively more worthwhile or desirable. You've got an okay press on that issue. On the second point, you seem to kind of accept the premise without challenging it all, and just you've got your counterclaim is based primarily on the notion that 26% don't have access. I think that's a good argument. I'm not sure, though, that automatically downloading a game online is going to be seen as being as simple, easy, or quick, depending upon, for instance, your internet connection, bugs in the system, so on and so forth. On the last point, I thought that you had an okay challenge here on what relevance does it have to finishing the game versus whether or not it's convenient. One of the things, though, that jumped right into my head, and I'm surprised that you didn't say anything about it, it's a lot easier to finish a simple game that you've downloaded and doesn't have all the intricacy in it that a regular game would have. No wonder they finish them. What's the causality here? Is it because they're more satisfied with the games and it's more convenient, or is it simply because the game isn't as complex and it doesn't have the same kind of detail? I think that would have been a good question to ask that kind of gets missed. You need to work a little bit on talking to the audience. We're getting a lot of reading here, not just you, but other people as well. All right, thank you.